I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt him, never wanted to betray the man who had given me everything. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I don't know when it started when I began to feel like I was slipping away from him, from us, from everything we had built together. It started with therapy. I thought it would help me, help us. The therapist was kind, understanding. He listened in ways I hadn't realized I needed. He made me feel like someone cared, like someone saw me. But soon, I began to feel something more. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. He understood my pain, my fears, my doubts, things I couldn't say out loud to anyone else, not even my husband. He gave me the space to talk about all the things I felt trapped inside, but that space, that comfort, quickly morphed into something dangerous. I was so lost, so broken, and somehow I thought he could fix me. But the more I saw him, the more I began to depend on him. I stopped seeing the world clearly. I stopped seeing him. I couldn't remember when the line blurred between needing help and needing him. I didn't know how to stop it. I told myself it was temporary, that I could pull myself out of it. But it was too late. We'd crossed a line I couldn't erase. I had crossed a line I couldn't take back. The guilt was suffocating, but I couldn't let him go. I needed him. I needed his validation, and I didn't know how to tell my husband. Every time I saw him, every time I felt his warmth, I felt more and more like a fraud. How could I betray the man I had built a life with, the father of our children? But the lie was growing too big, and it was eating away at me. I felt like I was suffocating, drowning in my own deception. The day he asked me, "How long has this been going on?" I froze. I knew in that moment that he knew. It was as if my world had collapsed in on itself. There was no escape. I had no choice but to tell him the truth, no matter how much it hurt both of us. I stood there, unable to find the right words. I I've been seeing him, I whispered, my voice trembling. My heart raced as I waited for him to speak, to react. But nothing could prepare me for the devastation that would follow. His face fell. Just disappointment, the shock, it hit me like a tidal wave. And then came the anger. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't say anything for what felt like an eternity, but I could feel the walls between us building higher, thicker, until there was no way back. "I'm so sorry," I said, but I knew it was too late. My apology couldn't undo the damage. My mistake was bigger than words could fix.
I couldn't breathe. I could barely hear her words as they echoed in my mind. I've been seeing him. My world shattered in that moment. The room, the house, the children's laughter, it all felt like it was 1,000 miles away. Her betrayal wasn't just with someone else. It was with the one person who was supposed to help her, someone I had trusted. That man had violated everything I stood for, and she had let him. I had suspected something, of course. I wasn't blind. But hearing her confess, seeing the guilt in her eyes, felt like a knife had been plunged into my chest. How could she do this? How could she betray me with someone who was supposed to help her heal? The man who was supposed to guide her through her struggles had become the architect of our destruction. I took a step back, trying to steady myself, but the room felt like it was spinning. Why him? I asked, though I wasn't sure I even wanted to hear the answer. My voice was barely above a whisper, but the anger burned in every word. Her face twisted in pain and she began to cry, but it didn't matter. The damage had already been done. She had crossed a line that I didn't know could ever be undone. I had loved her, trusted her, but now it felt like I didn't know her at all. She tried to explain, but her words felt hollow, as though she was speaking from a place so deep in guilt she couldn't even hear herself anymore. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she sobbed. "I didn't want to hurt you. But I was lost. I was broken. And she paused, shaking her head. He made me feel like I wasn't invisible. He made me feel like I mattered. I wanted to shout at her, to scream at her for everything she had done. But I couldn't. I was too numb. I couldn't even look at her anymore without feeling like my insides were being ripped apart. My mind kept going back to the children. Sammy, so innocent, so full of life, and little Emma with her wide, trusting eyes. How would I ever explain this to them? I couldn't answer her. How could I? There was nothing left to say. She had made her choice and it wasn't me. Do you even care about us anymore? I asked. The question sounded like a challenge, but I needed to know. I needed her to understand the weight of her actions. She couldn't even look me in the eye. She just kept crying, whispering apologies that meant nothing to me now. They were just empty words, words that couldn't erase what she had done. I thought I could make it right, she whispered, but I've ruined everything. I know I have. And in that moment, I knew. I couldn't stay. I couldn't keep living this lie. It wasn't just the affair that hurt, it was the betrayal of everything we had built. The trust, the love, the family, it had all been torn apart by her actions. I can't do this anymore, I said. My voice was steady, but my heart was shattered. You've crossed a line. I can't keep pretending. I can't keep living in a lie. I can't fix this. I walked away from her in that moment, not because I hated her, but because I had to choose myself. I had to choose my own peace, my own healing, and I wasn't going to sacrifice that for someone who had lost herself and lost me along the way. That night, I made the hardest decision of my life. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know everything. I needed to expose the man who had been sleeping with my wife, the therapist who had betrayed his professional duty, his trust. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he had done. But I wasn't just going to expose him. I was going to make sure he paid for it. The investigator did his work, and the evidence was damning. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted to make her realize the magnitude of her actions, the depth of her betrayal. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wasn't going to let him get away with it either. The divorce papers were signed, and I began the long process of rebuilding my life. Sammy and Emma were confused, but I could see in their eyes that they needed me to be strong. I wasn't just doing this for me, I was doing it for them too, for our family. In the end, I found peace. I found strength I didn't know I had. I made her pay for the betrayal. Not with anger, but with the truth. The truth that she could never undo. The truth that shattered everything she had once thought was safe. And as I walked away, knowing I had made the right decision, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about reclaiming your life.